my name is Eileen Zanarios from Flex Counseling and Wellness. These video yoga courses are intended for you to enjoy yoga in the comfort of your own home, at your own pace. As always, with any physical activity, make sure that your doctor approves you for physical activity, such as yoga, stretching, and that sort of thing. If you're not sure, ask. These classes are designed with a trauma-informed approach, which means that I will provide several suggestions for you, and it will be up to you to decide what works for you and your body. If anything doesn't feel right, choose a different posture that works better for your body. Hello. This session will be a deep hip stretching class. We'll get into all of your hip flexors, your hamstrings, and other muscles that support your pelvis and your hips. Welcome to our stretching series. This series is going to be for stretching some of the more common areas where we pick up tension. So that's going to be our shoulders and our hips. So we'll start with some very gentle stretches for our shoulders. So we'll start just moving our shoulders around in circles. And you might move in slow circles, a little faster, whatever works for your body. And then we'll switch directions. Whichever way you were going before, go the opposite way. I'm already noticing that I'm holding on to a lot of tension in my shoulders. And then come to rest. And we'll take our left hand to our right knee. Right fingertips can plant on the ground. Stretch the crown of the head up towards the ceiling and begin to gently twist. So very gentle here. And you'll notice I'm kind of holding on to the underside of my knee with my arm. If that's more flexibility than you have and you just want to place yours right here, that's fine as well. We'll slowly come back through center. Right hand comes to the outside of the left knee if you can reach. Right or left fingertips come to the ground. Stretch the crown of the head up towards the ceiling and begin to gently twist. You might feel this stretching in between the shoulder blades a little bit. Keeping that belly button engaged, always protecting the spine. And what does that mean, belly button engaged? It means kind of pull your belly button in towards your spine, just a little bit, just gently. So you're not super strong that you feel like you're restricting your breath, but just a little kind of tuck of that belly button in towards the spine. Slowly come back through center. And we'll move into a stretch that I would recommend having. If you have a strap, great. I would recommend using it. If you don't, grab a towel or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to be able to unknot this. Don't need to. So you're going to take the strap in the right hand, stretch the right hand up towards the ceiling, bend the right elbow so that the strap comes behind your back. Left hand reaches back and reaches for the strap. And don't worry about how close or how far apart your hands are. Just so that you're holding on to the strap with both hands. Right elbow's coming up towards the ceiling. And begin to just breathe. Feeling the stretch in the back of the right arm. Maybe in the front of the chest. Keep bringing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. And once again, we tuck that belly button in towards the spine to protect our spine by engaging our core muscles. I'm going to slowly release And then bring some movement into those shoulders. So that shoulder bind, that's what that's called. Good one to do for immune health because we've got some lymph nodes in our underarms here, and by kind of constricting the blood and then letting it flow, it kind of helps keep things moving. Taking the strap into our left arm, we'll stretch our left arm up to the sky, bend the elbow, and then reach back with our right. Grab the strap anywhere on the strap where you reach, and we'll hold. It is not uncommon to have pretty big differences between sides. So many of us have a dominant hand, and we're going to be using that hand for more activities. So there can be differences in the dominant hand versus the non-dominant hand in terms of how tight those muscles get. So in yoga, we try to suspend judgment. So we might notice differences, but we try not to judge in thinking that like one is good and one is bad. It's all neutral. It's just noticing like, oh, there's a little more tightness on this side. Maybe there's a little bit more softness on the other side. Maybe you explore holding the stretch a little longer on the side that happens to be a little tighter. Or maybe you don't stretch as deeply. It's all up to you. It's the exploration process. It's building that curiosity about our bodies, about our minds, just being curious and not being judgmental. Slowly release and loosen up the shoulders. And so next, I love this next stretch. This is one of my favorite stretches. So there's a lot of benefits. So you'll see I'm grabbing the blocks. I'm going to show you how you might use some props in this stretch. I also have one of these yoga blankets that you can tuck underneath your bottom if you'd like, if you need some extra padding on the mat. So for this stretch, we're going to take our left leg, straighten it out. Right knee is bent. And the right foot is kind of tucked in next to the inside of the left thigh. And that can be placed like anywhere that feels comfortable for you. So if you've got a lot of room, a lot of space between your knee and the ground, you can take one of these foam blocks and just prop it there. You could even put it on the highest setting if you're, if your knee is way up. That's perfectly fine. Something to rest your leg against kind of helps you release and kind of soften into the stretch. So we can leave our block there and take the block away if we don't want it. And so this may be a stretch that you might want to use the strap for, or towel. Really, a towel works just as well for this. So you might want to loop the strap around your left foot. Again, you're just giving yourself a little bit more space. You're going to take your right arm, stretch it up and over, grab onto the strap, and however deeply you stretch is how deeply you stretch, and you'll bring crown of the head away from the tailbone away from the crown of the head, and once again we keep that belly button slightly kissed in towards the spine. So I'm showing you this variation. This is going to be if you are not as acclimated to stretching, this might be what this stretch looks like for you. If you feel like you can go a little deeper, you might try reaching for the pinky toe side of your left foot. Now this may not work for you, and that's okay. But if you feel like you can do that and you want to do that, go ahead and grab. Continue to stretch, crown of the head towards the left big toe, and the gaze is going to be towards the knee. And then if you feel like you even want to go deeper still, you might start taking your nose towards your knee. But continue to stretch the crown of the head towards the left big toe.
I like to call this the Swiss Army knife of stretching poses. So this stretch has it all. You're stretching your back, your lower back, your upper back, as you stretch that crown of the head towards the foot. You're stretching the shoulder and the arm on the right side. You're stretching the back of the left leg, the hamstring, the calf. And then on the right side, you're stretching that inner hip. So if you do a regular workout routine and you have a few minutes at the end to do some stretching, but you don't have a ton of time, I'd recommend incorporating this stretch because it does take care of so many different areas all at once. It's great for the fast-paced world that we live in. You might notice the longer you hold a stretch, the deeper you can go. And when you're ready to start coming up out of the stretch, slowly reintegrate the spine back up to a neutral posture. Slowly untuck the leg. You might want to loosen up a little bit in between sides. So one way that's nice to loosen up is just take both knees and bend them back and forth like this. Or you can windshield washer your knees side to side, which is one of my favorite loosening up postures. Again, it gets into those hips. And then we're going to switch sides. So we'll take right leg straight out. Left knee tucks in. Again, feel free to use your block under the knee. Use a blanket under your bottom. Whatever you need to feel supported. And if we're using our strap, we're going to loop our strap around our right leg. Left fingertips come up, over, and grab onto the strap wherever they reach. And you might hold on right there. If you feel like you can go a little deeper, you might go down on the strap or reach for the pinky toe side of the right foot with the left arm. Again, this whole time we're stretching crown of the head towards the right big toe, so we're continuing to lengthen our spine. We lengthen our spine. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And maybe we take our nose closer to our knee. And it's okay if your leg can't quite get straight, that's okay. It's wherever your body lands is where your body lands. So you might have a bent right knee with a strap around it. That's perfectly acceptable. If you notice your mind getting caught up in to-do lists or work problems or home problems, just invite your mind back on your breath. Invite the thoughts to just continue to float by like clouds in the sky. Allowing the time on your mat to be time for you to ground into the present moment. Feel the sensations of the body. Tune in and notice the breath, and invite any other thoughts that might come up just to keep on going by. This time on your mat is for you, your self-care, your well-being. We're going to slowly start to release out, integrating our spine back into an upright posture. Again, we're going to loosen, so maybe we do some little making thunder on the ground, or maybe we windshield washer side to side to side. We're going to do some gentle hip openers next. So we're going to come on to the ground. Once again, perhaps a blanket under your body works better for you. And we'll start by hugging both knees in towards the chest or the belly and just rolling around. So rocking side to side or making circles on the ceiling with your knees. Exploring what feels best for you. And then we'll switch directions. The stretching series, a deep stretch posture class, is a fantastic way to unwind at the end of the day. So from here, we're going to go ahead and take both feet to the mat. And we're going to take our right ankle, cross it over our left leg, flexing the right foot. So that means taking the toes back towards the knee. And we'll rest right here. This might be a nice stretch for you. If you feel like you'd like a little bit more energy to the stretch, you can take a block under the left foot. If you feel like you'd like an even more of a stretch, we'll take our handy dandy strap, thread it behind the left thigh and pull. That's going to really start to open up into the deeper part of our right hip, so that might be a little more intense than what you're looking to do. And if that's the case, just bring it back to the floor or back to the block. And if this level of intensity is feeling okay for you, you can loop your hands around your left thigh and pull with your hands. Or if you don't have a strap, you can just use your arms. But again, this is all optional. You don't have to do the deepest variation of the stretch. You can use a less intense version and you're still going to get the same benefits. Depending on how deep you are in the stretch, you'll slowly begin to come out of it. Taking both feet back to the mat. And maybe windshield washering the knees side to side. And then we'll find the stretch on the other side. So left ankle comes on top of right knee, left foot flexes, and you might stay right there. You might take the right foot up onto the block. And if you stay in this posture, you can always take your left hand to your left knee and press it forward. That kind of opens the hip a little bit differently. Or once again, we can grab our strap. We can loop it around and pull in. Or we can lace fingers and pull in. Slowly start to release. Again, unwinding, and since we hold our stretches a little longer, we want to soften and loosen before we move on to the next posture, so we windshield washer. And the next posture we're going to do is almost restorative. You can do this at various points throughout your practice. You take the soles of the feet together, knees wide. You can also do this one seated with feet together, knees wide. This opens the inner thighs. Even kind of feels like it opens the lower back a little bit. And then cultivates that grounding sensation as you feel your body against the ground, inviting everything to become heavier with each exhale. So next we're going to come into our hip opening series, coming into a half pigeon. So we'll begin in our downward facing dog. So make your way to your downward facing dog. Stretching out, opening up the spine. Maybe walking it out, bending one knee and then the other. We're going to go ahead and take our right knee next to our right wrist, kind of square off the shin, make it more parallel to the top of the mat, although it may not actually get there. Allow the left leg to rest. So this is another one where we may use our props. So maybe we have our block, placing it down, and we might rest our forehead on the block, either on the low setting or the higher setting. Or we might take our forehead down all the way to the mat, stretching our arms out. Half pigeon is one of the more intense hip opening postures. So you can expect to feel some intensity. If this posture is too intense for you, you might want to flip around onto your back and take the number 4 stretch where you cross your right ankle on your left knee. So that's basically the same stretch. This is just a little bit more intense, a little bit deeper. And this is going to be one of those postures where those emotions, those difficult, challenging emotions may start to come up. So if you notice that you're feeling an emotional release, just allow it to happen. It's one of the nice things about a video yoga practice. You're not in a studio, nobody's around. So if you find those tears start to fall, just allow them, invite them to fall. If your body begins to shake or tremor, if you feel some intensity coming up, just invite that to happen. Keeping in mind that if you do have a history of trauma and those intense feelings become to get a little overwhelming, Once again, we're going to flip ourselves back onto our back, hug our knees in, and find something a little less intense. Only you know which parts of your journey are too intense and which parts of your journey are those difficult kind of processes that help you to get closer to your truth, closer to balance for you. So a lot of times we associate the different elements to our yoga practice, and there's a lot that goes into that that you can study about. But kind of, if you think about the different elements, like grounding and earthiness is sort of like the earth element, and then you have like the sort of flowy kind of movement oriented, that's like water. When we find space, create space, breathing in and kind of just always finding more space and room in our bodies and in our minds, that's air. And then when we've got that intensity, that heat, that's fire. So the element that tends to be associated with the hips is water, although I would say that half pigeon kind of brings a pretty good amount of fire here. So if you're feeling that, just know that it's normal. Again, this is a pretty intense stretch. The outer hip is opening, and we hold so much, not just emotionally and mentally in our hips, but just with sitting at desks, sitting in chairs, sitting watching Netflix, sitting in the car. The more we sit, the more our hips tighten. So we've got to unwind all of that. You'll notice we're holding this for quite some time, but we're just about ready to start to release out. So we're going to do that slowly. So we're going to slowly start to lift our head. We've been down for a while. And then we're going to kind of just unwind however works for you. So one way to do that is just to take that right leg and stretch it back and kind of rock back and forth a little bit. Another way to do that is down dog, and even taking that knee back up and kind of just moving that knee around and that hip around. And guess what? Whatever we have on one side, we have on the other. So we're going to head into our half pigeon on the other side. If you need to take a break in child's pose for a while, if that was a really emotional experience for you, go ahead. You can even hit pause on the video. Head into a child's pose, get yourself a drink of water, take care of yourself. But just know that emotional releases, it's not something we necessarily want to run from. Noticing our emotions, becoming in tune with our emotions, and kind of exploring our emotions can be very helpful on our journey to balance and wellness. So from here, we're going to take left knee to left wrist, square off the hips, square off the shin, kind of get cozy. And again, maybe we're bringing our forehead down to the block. Maybe we're bringing it down to the mat. Try to keep that left foot flexed, which means the knee is back towards the toes back towards the knee. So it's like the opposite of a ballerina toe is flexing. And just start to settle in. Noticing the breath. Noticing if there are thoughts cropping up, just pretend like those thoughts are clouds in the sky floating by. You're watching your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You're just watching like a third party, just watching them. They come up, they form, and then they go. Thoughts are always changing. The inner landscape of our mind is always changing. Just like our external world is always changing. We try to invite ourselves to be an observer of our experience, a non-judgmental observer. And that's really what mindfulness is, that concept of mindfulness, is we pay attention to what's going on in the present moment. So whatever that is, could be our physical body, could be our mind, our thoughts, our feelings. We just pay attention. Pay attention to the present, the here and now. But the key to mindfulness is we pay attention without judgment. So we cultivate curiosity. We ask ourselves the questions. We get curious about ourselves and our experience. Maybe we start to notice patterns that we fall into. And instead of judging ourselves about those patterns, or even beating ourselves up mentally about those patterns, feeling bad about ourselves with guilt or shame, we become curious instead and kind of look at those patterns and wonder why. Why did we develop a certain pattern? How did we start to get that way? How does that pattern serve us, or how did it serve us in the past? What can we learn from our pattern? As we cultivate curiosity, we start asking questions with an open mind. And that's how we can start to extend compassion to ourselves. It's stepping away from the shame. It's stepping away from the self-judgment. Instead of looking at a pattern and thinking that it's a flaw that we have and it's bad and it makes us imperfect and makes us not enough, we look at that pattern and we say, wow, that pattern developed because it helped protect me or it helped to serve me. And I can learn to adapt a different pattern, but I don't have to beat myself up because I developed that pattern to begin with. I don't have to feel bad about who I am. I can just take who I am and move forward in a direction that works for me. Once again, just embrace your emotional experience, whatever that is. Notice it. Invite it to happen. And we'll slowly start to come out of the stretch. Again, opening into whatever works for our body. I like to first kind of stretch my leg back. Maybe it's a down dog. And we move around. And then wherever we are, we're going to cross our ankles. Come on to our backs. Hug knees in towards chest. Shift side to side. And then keep hold of the right knee. Straighten the left leg out. Take a deep breath in. And twist. Again, that outer hip, open, soften. That's good. Slowly back through center. Left knee comes in, right leg straightens. And we twist. Opening that outer hip, lower back. Back through center. Hug both knees in. Give yourself one big squeeze. And then open up into Shavasana. And you might plant your feet and tip your knees in like a pyramid. Or you can straighten both legs out onto the mat, tucking shoulder blades under the back to support your open heart. Slightly tuck the chin in to lengthen the back of the neck. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and just release out all of the tension and emotions that your hip opener stirred up. And melt into your Shavasana. Begin to deepen your breath. Invite some gentle movement into your fingers and your toes. And slowly start to take your knees in towards your chest. And then make your way over to one side of your body. Taking a moment to rest, using your upper arm as a pillow. Pause for a moment and just be here now. Slowly make your way up to seated position, crossing the legs. Allow your spine to reintegrate back into an upright posture. Hands come together in front of your heart if you'd like. Take a moment to set an intention for yourself or send
positive thoughts or gratitude out, whatever feels right for you. And then bringing our thumb knuckles up to our forehead center, we share a word that simply means the light in me sees and honors the light in you. Together we say, Namaste. If you have any questions throughout your practice, feel free to reach out through the Flex Counseling and Wellness website.